Good morning, good morning, good morning. You're in tune to Win FM 98.9 on your radio dial. Those of you who are streaming on the internet, it's good morning to you too. Those of you who are in diaspora who are listening in, good morning to you too. It's a beautiful morning here in St. Kitts. It's Friday morning. Frighteningly though, today is what, the 14th I think it is?
Yes.
It is of January already. This is frightening. Another frightening thing is that the lines downstairs are long. People are getting tested for Omicron. It is wreaking havoc here in St. Kitts and Nevis. If you were here, you would not notice because it's like business as usual. Yeah, for those parents who have their children at home still, have an understanding that it is serious and we have to start taking this thing very seriously because it is the reality. It kills. It can kill. Like any other variant, it can do that. It puts people in the hospital. People are ventilated on ventilators. It's no joke. So we ask again to observe protocols, that is wearing your mask, social distancing, and sanitizing. And there's another, outside of Omicron, there's another flu. I don't know what this one is called, but it is deadly. It's dangerous. It causes lots of body pain. It cripples you. I don't know what it is. I don't know where it came from. Because although people are wearing masks, people are still, I'm not going to say all the people wear masks because we see incidents of people who have really dropped their guards, let their guards down, and we see the results of that. People are struggling. It affects your breathing. It basically cripples you. It is not a good thing to have at this time. But anyways, we have life. So good morning again to you. My name is Sandra Crilly Atherton. And this morning is about the time that we have Your Views. Your Views is a program that is here on Win FM every Friday morning at 10 o'clock. Do not set your time because it's already 10 past 10 in the studios of Win FM. Sometimes we run a little late due to circumstances, sometimes beyond our control. When you're panicking like me do, I've had a situation where, you have to rush, because situations happen, because life, things happen when you're not prepared for it, and therefore it is how you can pull yourself back and get yourself back on time. And there's situations like that happen. I have with me this morning a beautiful young lady. I'm so happy that she's back, and we hope that I'm going to have her for a lot more mornings because it's our intention to not change the show, but it's the information that the public needs to be aware of, especially in these trying times. And so I have with me this morning Jamal. Jamal is my daughter from another mother. She's a child that I've cared for. Every time I come on, I'll say the same thing. It's a child that I've cared for. It's a child that I admire. I admire her, the way she's at in life. I admire, the decisions that she's made, and she would have done so a lot of times single-handedly. And I am very, very proud of her. Jamal, welcome to Your Views.
Good morning. Thank you.
Again, Your Views is a program that is here on Win FM every morning around this time. It's a program that we can talk about anything. It's a program where it sets your views, so we make sure that sometimes we do open the line based on the topics that we have. Sometimes we would have this discussion so that we can inform you. Because a lot of times, information for me is key. And I want you guys to be analytical. I don't want you to have to be spoon-feeding you. It's not a voices program where people just calling. We're looking for solutions, not just identifying problems. And so that's one of the reasons why we get people here who can solve some of the problems and not just have just this talk. Because I realize that's a lot we have here in St. Kitts, a lot of talk. When I was growing up, and I suppose you the same, Jamal, because we're in that era, not the 20-year-olds now.
Yeah.
They're different. It's a different breed. The children now these days are different. Parenting is different. It has taken a complete different role, form. And so because we have younger people, I can't say that because people always say, oh, it's young people who are parenting. My mother was 16 years old when she had her first child. And so we are accustomed to see teenagers being pregnant. As a matter of fact, in those days, it was more teenagers, young teen, because they finished school at 13, and people were actually working at 13. So you had younger teenagers parenting children, and that is, I am one of the product. I'm a product of that because my mother was a 16-year-old. She had 9 children, 10 at the end, but she had 10 children that she had to do, and most of the time she had to do it single-handedly. And we see the big difference that we are now. We see the kind of people that we are now. We're not like those, I mean, these 20-year-olds, but we can't blame them, can we?
No, we
Why?
cannot. Well, it's like you said, my mom, when I was younger, it's one of the reasons you came into my life. I think admitting that you can't do everything by yourself, number one, and employing these people around you who you respect and who you admire and who you know can impart something onto that child that you might not be able to. And that way you really get a community raising that child instead of every parent thinking that they can do it themselves and not really wanting the input of those around them, even though we all care. There's a lot of finger pointing, well, that's not my child, so that's not my business. But that child at some point becomes an adult and a part of society. And whatever that child decides to do, it affects the society on a whole. So it ends up trickling down into this domino effect where the same people pointing the finger at these children are the same ones who are going to have to live in the world that these children create because it is their generation as well.
And you see, it's beautiful put, Jamal. And I always say it is when you ignore, they become your problem.
Yes.
When you help, it becomes your pride.
Yeah.
You live in a society where these children makes a difference. These children decide whether or not you go to work at mornings and leave your door open and not worry whether or not the door is open. These are the same children at nights. It decide how restful you would sleep. And it is not them, it is us. Just like you say, sometimes we turn a blind eye and a deaf ear and we think that, okay, that's not my problem. It's somebody else's worries. But you know, I realized, and I was analyzing the situation, assessing it and seeing, because you're always asking the question, why the difference? Why is it so the difference, the span is so wide? Why we have children nowadays days, crime has escalated, it's all young people, not just in St. Kitts and Nevis, on the world over.
Yes.
This is the whole problem that we have, where young people are becoming a problem. It's not because, like I said, the mothers are teenagers, because we would have looked at that long time ago. But you ask yourself the question, then why are these children so different? It's a lot of things that we haven't passed down from generation to generation. Because, and don't talk about work, because my mother used to have to get up early in the morning. 5:30 she was up because she had to go dig clay, or she had to go pot work to do some, they had to look for food for your children. So you had to go to the ground, you had to go to the mountains. Then in those days, you had to cut cane. So parents got up early and they had to be on the job. And children, we were different because we were disciplined. We understood what we had to do. Our parents didn't have to be there because we understood what the drill was. You get up in the morning, you clean the yard, you feed the fowls, you take the goats out, you come back, you bathe your skin, you go for water because you didn't have running water then. You go for water, you come back, you bathe your skin, you prep yourself ready for school because your mother would have gotten up early so she can make breakfast. You would have had your breakfast. You walk to school. You had to walk back home for lunch. Mother had to come back home in time so that she could prepare lunch for you. Then you walk back to school. But our children are so privileged now. They get up in the morning, parents are making their breakfast. They can't even put on their own clothes because you have to have them dressed. I'm talking about 16-year-olds. Huh? You have to comb their hair, 16-year-olds. When they leave, you have to clean their bedroom. They have absolutely nothing to do. Most of the time, you as a parent, you have to be running behind them because in their hand, they have a cell phone or a tablet.
Yes.
They're not paying attention. They get up first thing in the morning, they're on TikTok or they're on YouTube. And this is the problem we have. Where, when, how has this happened?
I think it goes, you really touched on the surface well there. And I think to dig deeper into that, we pass along all of these things that we were also taught. But the empathy is what's missing. There is a total detachment when it comes to human connection. People hold on to their phones, sit behind computer screens, and thus it's very easy to say hurtful things, to do hurtful things, to watch another life being taken because there's really no connection there. And when we can't connect on a human level, it's very easy to just throw your hands up and not care. until it reaches your doorstep. And I think that that's really what's missing. There is no real respect and empathy for human life because it's very difficult to destroy something that you love and you feel an attachment to. But once you've removed yourself from that, then it's easy to let it go and forget about it. And I think that when we start kind of showing these children, instead of just talking about it, showing them exactly what that love and that support of each other looks like, then they have something to emulate. Because what they see is parents teaching them to clean, to, do their homework and things like that. But then they look at these adults around them who talk about other people, and I hear it all the time. People aren't good, and I don't. That's why I don't have friends. And people say it in this braggadocious manner, as though we can coexist on our own. No man is an island, and we all need somebody. It doesn't matter how much you can be the wealthiest person on the earth, and it can't save you at the end of the day if you don't have that person around you who can perform the brain surgery that you need, even though you're the one holding all of the money. So we all need each other, and I think that the reliance is gone. There's a lot of pride to it. People take a lot of pride in saying, I don't need anybody. I can do everything by myself. And I think that that's where the problem begins, because that's something that parents are also instilling in their children. This idea that you shouldn't need anybody. Go to school, get an education, work hard so that you don't need to depend on anyone. You can be independent and still depend on the people around
Definitely.
you. So I think that that's really what it comes down to, for me at least, from my observation. It's just really a lack of empathy.
And another thing, when you look at what your children are looking at, when you look at what is on the television, when you turn on your radio and you listen to the programs that are on the radio, you recognize, it's so much negative energy,
Yes.
and our children are sucking it up on a daily basis. If we ask what is the statistics for people who are suffering from depression and anxiety, we would understand why. Because we create a world that our children look into. It's not for them, it is their reality. It is, once you look at television, it's just a movie, they're just acting. But
Yeah.
children are now living it as it's their reality. This is what the world looks like. We were afraid. I was looking and realizing where the world was going. And you listen to Elon Musk, and he talk about artificial intelligence, and that robots are going to take over. And we really think that, I lied on one day when I was in my bed and I was thinking about it. I said, we really think that they're going to be making all of these robot things and making them as robots? Look at what they're doing to us. We are becoming so attached to artificial intelligence. Siri,
Yes.
can you turn on the lights? Siri, can you open the door? See, we are, and our children.
Yeah.
Alexa, can you tell me 2 times 2? We are becoming that.
Yes.
We are becoming so programmed to these artificial intelligence. They have become, as a matter of fact, we relate better to artificial intelligence than we relate to humans.
Yes.
And that is what is frightening. We think that it's not going to happen, but it's already happening. But we are not even aware of the fact that this is happening. And we are allowing this generation. I have a 3-year-old granddaughter. Listen, I look at her sometimes, Mimi, and I'm like, you are definitely not 3 years old. And you ask the question again, why are they so different? Children now, when they're born, they lift their head up. Mimi did that. I'm saying, Mimi, look, Mom, Mimi, just out of belly. And she's moving the cloth and she's looking up and she's watching me. I'm like, huh? That is definitely not normal. And these children now walking, they're having teeth at 6 weeks, they're turning at 1 week, they're reacting, they're actually, communicating with you at such an early age. Yeah. And you ask yourself a question again, what is causing this difference? We are going into a different era. Life has changed, and we know that. History would have told us that, because we're not seeing the Homo sapiens anymore. We're not seeing children who go to school barefooted and walking with books. Children are driving themselves to school now. Yeah. And that's where it's at. Almost every family has a vehicle. In my days, we had to foot it, and it was miles. But now it's such a different. We are creating these lazy minds. And
Yes.
sooner or later, our children will not be able to think for themselves. And Siri is going to become the next mommy, the next daddy, the next teacher, the next counselor.
You said it. It's a lazying of the mind. And when we break it down and we look at all of these, like you said, artificial intelligences around us, It's exactly what I'm talking about. What those robots are missing is exactly what separates us from them, from human and robot, is the fact that we have that ability to be empathetic and compassionate and express and experience love, and they cannot. And yet that is the thing that we shy away from exhibiting the most. So what makes us any different from a robot who can prepare breakfast just like we can? It's the empathy and the love that we have. They don't have the heart that a human being has. And when we don't utilize that, then we're no different from the robots.
And you know what I would see, you don't see it in the movies where robots want to be humans because they want to experience love. They want to be able to show love. They want to be able to show emotions. But yet, so we humans, we have all that and we want to become robots because we want to just sit there and do absolutely nothing and have somebody doing it for us. It is. I don't know how people are looking at it. I don't know whether or not people are looking at it, but it is very serious because that is exactly where our world, where our people are going. We are losing that. We talk about, and I see it amongst leaders. You see it amongst parents. It's amongst neighbors. We don't have neighbors anymore. I don't know who my neighbors are, and it's the honest truth. I don't know who live next door to me, and it is the honest truth. Because you don't make this. Once ago, you used to greet your neighbor and like, "Hi, neighbor. My name is such and such. Welcome to the neighborhood. Is whatever you want, you can call. If you have a problem, you can shout. Give me your number, so in the event that something should happen, I can contact you." That is not happening now.
It starts at the top. And I mean, even politicians, like you said, and the leaders of this world, we all want something in life. And it's okay to go after what we want without having to tear someone down in the process. And when I look at politics, for example, and I hear the way that they ridicule and completely tear into each other's characters, personal lives, family members, things on the most personal levels, it really does set the tone for what's acceptable. Because if you're supposed to be the leader of an island or a major country, then this is the tone that you're setting for the people that you're supposed to be responsible for. You're telling them that it's okay. It's okay to do this. It's okay to talk about, your opponent. We can compete for something and still be family. We can go after the same job, we can go after the same scholarship and still not hate the person who's competing for the same thing. And I think that that's something that needs to start really from the top. There needs to be examples set that are completely the opposite of what we currently have now.
Then we have to start to look at the homes. But you can't talk about these politicians are my age, and they were raised basically the same way that I was raised. So you ask yourself the question, what is the factor that changes people's minds into who they are now? You lose that love. You lose that that empathy. You lose the fact that you can care about people. People are becoming so detached.
Yes.
And you ask why. And it's frightening because we are raising a generation of people who doesn't understand what love is. I mean, it's so different. In my time, you get up in the mornings, you hug your mother, you kiss her, "Good morning, Mom," and you have a little conversation. Now you have to go to your children and say, "Can I have a kiss?" Well, okay, my children are different because we are accustomed to doing that. We're accustomed to hug, and I make sure that it's something that you practice. You kiss bye-bye. You come home, "Hi, how are you doing? What have you done so far?" You get involved and you try to make sure that that you maintain that way of that connection between you and your kids. I mean, my daughter used to tell me, "Oh, all my friends think that I'm different because I can't go anywhere unless mommy says." It is so.
Yeah.
You cannot go, and I have to first assess who you're going out with in the first place and where you're going. Because right now in St. Kitts, where can a young person go to have good fun, clean fun, where no marijuana is involved, no alcohol is involved, no lewd language is involved, no nudeness is involved, because that is what you're having. Entertainment now has totally changed.
Yes.
I remember the days we used to go to house parties. You get a grind on the wall. That was the most that it was. But you're fully clothed. Now it's more than that. And so as a parent, when my daughter asks to go out, you have to first go to the place, look at it, assess it, and see whether or not it is suitable for my child to go there. Because when you go there, you go to pick it up, you want to know, this is where you were all night? And And, parents have to become more aware. We have to play more of an integral part in our children's life, raising not
Definitely.
just daughters, but sons the same way. Morals has gone to the door, no principle. And I feel like an alien amongst humans because I think I do things totally differently. And so people look at you, oh, your mother is weird, she's strange, she's too strict. But at the end of the day, and I was so proud of her when she said to me the other night, she said, I'm so proud when parents are going to call me and ask me, oh, my daughter was with you for real? Because she is the one who sets the example. And she's so proud when she can tell her friend, don't let it go so loosely. Later on, you're
Yes.
going to regret it. She has never had experience later on. But yet still, she knows what can happen later on. And she would say, later on, you're going to regret it. And as a parent, I stand proud. And I'm so happy that I took the time. Because like everybody else, I had to work hard. My mornings used to start very early because I had to be at work on time. And then my job extended into the late hours. But then I was able to take my son and I could teach him there, spend the time, walk down the stairs while the computer's running, and have a conversation while you're doing so. We have to learn how to multitask because we are raising a generation of children that we are going to be super dependent on more sooner than later.
Yes. And it's not just that, it's also raising a generation that, is going to be one that can pass on this mantle to the next one to come. I think we teach arrogance very well, but confidence not so much. And when you have a generation of young people who are very arrogant but lack confidence, you have a problem because I think when you're confident, it's okay for you to show certain aspects of who you are. You're not afraid to show empathy or to be compassionate. You're not afraid to stand up to that bully for on behalf of someone else. But when you're arrogant, I find arrogance to always be paired with a bit of fear, actually a
It
lot
is.
of
It
fear.
is.
But I always find confidence to come with such boldness and bravery behind it because you stand in your own truth and you know who you are, you know yourself. And so it becomes very difficult for people to sway you into doing things that you weren't taught to do, things that you know aren't right to do. And I think it just makes for a better place and a better set of young people all around.
Yeah, because when you look at arrogance, arrogance is negative energy. It's darkness. When you look at confidence,
Yeah.
it exudes that positiveness.
Yeah.
It creates that, and people look up to you because they think, well, I want to emulate that person. I want to
Yes.
be like, I want to be able to speak boldly. I mean, and confidently
Yeah.
like that person. And this is what you want. Because like I said, we are raising a generation who are supposed to be preserving the human race because we are losing ourselves. And it's simple. We might be taking it very simple, but if we look and see where the future is going for us, it is in the 2000s.
But
It's just
it's like you were saying earlier, asking the question, why? Why do these politicians, for example, feel the need to tear each other down? It's a lack of confidence because
is.
when you're confident, you can stand on your own merits. You can go after what you want and always stick to your values, your character, what you have to bring to the table because that's what matters. But we live in this society where we've created these subgroups of people who are just so lacking in confidence that they themselves can't even recognize it. So you feel like you have to now step outside of that and come down to the level in which they understand and can relate to, which is the bashing of one another and the tearing down each other and talking about each other. And it's really sad to see because these are educated people who are supposed to have this level of confidence, and yet they throw it away because they feel they can't depend on what it is that makes them them. So they have to do what the other person is doing. And that's when we lose ourselves. And I feel like people here don't even know the people who are running the country. And you can't know somebody who doesn't reveal themselves to you.
so true. And Jamal, I'm looking at you because it's the way it's flowing. And we come to the point where why, how we can make that difference. We had a discussion the other night. We spoke about creating forums, positive
Yes.
forums, where we can have discussions like this. We talk about topics that are very taboo, that we don't talk about at all, and we look and see. When I speak to mothers, parents, people who are parenting children, and we see the ignorance. Ignorance doesn't mean the attitude that people think that's what ignorance means, but the lack of knowledge, the lack of information. And you ask yourself, I ask myself the question all the time. Now, how do you teach your daughter these things when you don't know? And that is where the problem is. A lot of times people walk around in their arrogant, with their arrogant self, in all that air of arrogance, not knowing. And that is what arrogance is, falsehood. You have to be arrogant. You have to create an impression. People have to see you for something that you're not.
Yes.
And that is one of the reasons why people behave the way they behave. And so when I talk to them, I'm hearing, and I'm like, oh, wow. So what do you say to your daughter then? Because you've raised two beautiful daughters.
Yeah.
So what do you say to them? Because if you don't know this, how are they going to find, or what do they know? And she says, oh, Sandra, we need to have forums like this where we can talk about, because I thought it was just me. And I think that is what is missing. When you listen to the radio, when you listen to the reality shows that these children are so stuck on, I don't look at reality shows. I don't like them. I don't look those Kim Kardashian's nonsense. I used to look at The Bold and the Beautiful, As the World Turned, and then I realized where it was going.
Yeah.
It changed, and you saw the change from the generation change. The gap was so wide, and you couldn't understand why they jump from one behavioral pattern to this other one, because you look at the people who they're selling these things to.
Yes.
And it changed completely. And so it's the same thing that you're seeing. You're seeing, because parents are lacking in information, they don't have that knowledge. You ask, and they think they're doing the right thing. And because that is what they know. And we realize now why, because we don't have forums, we don't have groups of people that come together and have these discussions. And this is what is absolutely necessary. And that is one of the reasons why I decided, while you're here, we're going to do it on this program, because that was the idea. The idea of this program was to make sure that people become more informed. We have to look at the problems that we are faced with in society.
Yes.
I don't want to talk politics. I don't want to talk the problems that people are having. I want to bring solutions. I want to be able to, and I want young people to have an understanding that hope, there's still hope. Because there are people who have the information but have not been given the place, the time, or the chance to bring that information forward.
There's a reason for that, though. And I feel like it comes down to one basic thing, and it is trust. Because we live in this society where, even though we are aware that someone might be able to help us, we don't trust the situation. We don't trust them. It's such a small place, and I find it very jarring when people get upset if, for example, you and I are best friends, and someone will come and tell me something negative about my best friend, and have the audacity to get upset with me if I share that with my best friend, whom they know is my best friend. You don't do that, because now you've put someone, an innocent person, in a position to now choose between either betraying that best friend and not sharing something with them when they share everything, and keeping this secret, which is something negative. So my thing is, instead of getting upset with people delivering these negative pieces of information that you put in their ears, just don't bother repeating it. Just don't say it at all. And I think that that's what it comes down to. We need to learn to be more like walking vaults. Not everything that comes into our head needs to come out of our mouths.
Then you don't go on
There's no filtering process. And when you care about someone, it should be so hard for you to want to even entertain a conversation that is negative about that person. We have family members talking about family members. We have sisters talking about their other sisters. We have daughters talking about their mothers. You have girlfriends talking about their boyfriends to their friends. I mean, there is no trust. So when it comes to things that are serious now, we have things like mental health. And you have someone who really is in genuine need of help, but they can't trust that where they're going to be laying their burdens, that is going to actually stay there.
Jamal,
That they can actually get the help that they need and feel secure and confident and comfortable that they're getting help, and that it's in a situation that is controlled and that is discreet. We don't have to always use people's, not always, but we don't ever have to use people's shortcomings against them. And I always say, what is the purpose of you having this negative information about me? There is no reason to store bad information. If we have a cold, we want to get rid of it very fast. If you catch the virus, you want to get rid of it very fast because it's something bad. It's like poison to the body. Negative information and gossip about other people is the same way. And when we hold on to so much of that, it's like poison, but then it becomes the thing that feeds us. And the more you get, the more you want. So you're taking up so much space inside of yourself with the negative stuff, and you're slowly removing all the positive things about yourself. And now the only thing you want is that negative information and that gossip. It feeds you. You actually go out seeking it. You would be around friends or family members, and you're looking for that small moment, that crack in a conversation where you can now chime in and say something and add something negative. And I think that that really is the basis of the problem here. It's trust.
Let me tell you, Jamal, I'm listening to you and I'm sitting here and I'm watching you and I'm hearing. I had a conversation, and it's with this young person, and it's young people on a whole, because I do like to sit down and talk with young people. And they all have one thing in common: trust issues.
Yes.
And you ask, why can't you talk to me? Because I don't trust you. But
Yes.
you've never had that conversation because I've had it with other people and they've done the same way. And they said the
Yes.
same thing. The introductory line was just like what you said. Oh, you could tell me anything. I won't say it. And next thing you know, I'm hearing it on the road and I
Yeah.
want to kill myself.
Yeah.
And we sit down and we ask, why would people want to take their lives? Because if you live in a world you can't trust anybody, you're just as good as dead.
Yeah.
And people do not understand the problems that are created with gossip. And I'm glad that you raised that topic, because I want my friends who are listening to now know, because sometimes you're afraid to tell them, right? How much I cringe when you come trying to talk about somebody else's business to
Yes.
me. I hate it with a passion, because there's so many other things that we can talk
talk
about.
about.
China trying to make the sun hotter, about all of those injected mosquitoes that was let out in
Yeah.
Florida, about what Elon Musk is talking about. The world is changing, and it's
Yeah.
changing so fast. And I wish I can find somebody who I can sit down and have a good conversation with instead of gossiping. Friends, I love you guys, but I hate gossip. I do
Yeah.
not like gossip. I don't like negative energy. I always like to make sure that my environment is positive, and that is one of the reasons why I don't entertain guests at my house.
I actually was just going to say, I had a friend over recently. My young sister as well was there, and she had two of her friends around as well. And we were it wasn't planned, it just happened spontaneously. And we had such a good time. And by the end of it, this person texted me. I said, let me know when you get home. And she texted me and she said, thank you. She said, thank you for just giving us an opportunity to have a good time without any negativity and without spending the entire time just talking about other people. And I found that to be such an odd thing to be thanked for, but I understood because of where I am. And that's the unfortunate part. We can sit around as women for 3 hours and go through everyone else's life and their problems and their faults. And it's so unnecessary, because at the end of it, what did you gain? You spent 3 hours around other human beings and there was no genuine connections made. You spent the entire time talking about other people. We miss these opportunities in a time where people are dying so rapidly. I mean, you want to take every moment that you can to cherish your friends and talk about good things and find out what struggles they have and how you can help them, not how you can use their struggle against them.
And you know what? You don't even have to take their struggles. When you create an environment when you can talk, they would be able to help themselves. Because,
Yes.
I don't want anybody to come and bring their negative energy to my house and always have problems, because it is. I carry people's burden. And when you would have left, I am home because I don't know how to deal with it. Because the next day you come, you're going to talk about the same problem. And so I would prefer we have discussions where you can look at yourself, position yourself, and use some of the lines or one of the incident and realize, oh, my situation person is like that, and hear the solution and you apply it to yourself. Because we become very needy sometimes. And again, because we are raised in an environment of negative energy.
Yes.
And so when you, and it's an energy, it feeds off you and you feed it. It's a parasite. And when you continue giving it and you're giving it, and negative energy sucks up all of that good energy, that the positive energy, and then you're left with, a person who is just negative. And so you ask the question, what do they get from that growth energy? They become powerful when you can sit down and say, oh, I ain't want, that girl there, she creates. I hate that. Don't start those lines. I don't like it. Why you can't say, Jamal, I feel so sorry for you. I recognize what your problem. Let's talk about it then.
Yeah.
Instead of Jamal coming and say, girl, Sandra, that girl Tracy who's your friend, it always start like that. Don't do that though.
Yeah.
I don't know why people do that. People always want to. I get high from a positive environment. I don't drink alcohol. I don't use drugs. I have no bad habits. I tell people that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have
they're
one.
just not inducive to our overall health.
I have one
at
bad
all.
habit. I talk too much sometimes. But, I tell people, I can go to a party, but the life of the party, never smoke, never drink. If I smell alcohol, I get drunk. But out of positive energy, when people are happy, I become happy.
Yeah.
That's one of the things. And that's one of the reasons why I tell people I'm affected by emotions. And one of the reasons why I do not like people coming to my home, because everybody bring that all negative emotion there. And then they leave. And you walk into the dining room and you want to, why in here feel so heavy? Because they left it there. And then you go in your bed and you realize you're twisting. Why can't I sleep?
Yeah.
Because that energy remains
It stays there.
And that is why you have to be so careful about the people that you engage with. And, you came to my house. I always love to have you at my house. Choma, when you leave, it is true. And I must tell you that when you leave, it's I'm so upbeat. You want to do something else because it is hard to find somebody who's going to have that kind of conversation with you.
Yeah.
People, when they pick up, hello, in your nice, bright voice, how are you? I hope everything's fine. Girl, Sandra, I'll call you to tell you this. Take a deep breath. Because you don't want to insult them. And you don't want to tell them, no, not today.
Yeah.
And you listen. I'm not listening. Most of the time, I'm not even listening. I'm playing Coin Masters or Match Masters. I'm playing while I'm here, where you're talking and not hearing you. Honestly, I do not hear, but I'm giving you a chance to vent. But I don't want to absorb that energy. I don't.
Yes.
Because it's really tough because you're not that kind of person. It's even harder for you to live or operate in an environment of negativity.
When we look around, we see it. We see how, as much as people talk about being so original and being so authentic and themselves, everyone is still trying to be like somebody else. I look at girlfriends, for example, and over a period of time, you start to see who the alpha is because you see the other personality type slowly starting to kind of disappear into themselves and become a little bit more like the person they spend the majority of their time around. So if you're going to be, if we're all absorbing something anyway, why not be absorbing something that's positive, something that's going to help us become better people? And as you said, growth. I always tell people, don't just believe me when I say I'm a good friend or I'm a trustworthy person. I can show you that. I'm confident that I can show you that. And I can show you how to be that just by being that person around you enough. Because doing something enough times, we're creatures of habit.
Habits.
And so we can't even prevent ourselves sometimes from picking up certain habits naturally. Because I'm sure you've experienced it. I'm sure lots of people have experienced it where you might have known somebody in the beginning and they used to do something that annoyed you. And after spending enough time with them, you realize that they've slowly stopped doing that thing. And they just kind of stopped. Maybe they didn't even stop doing it altogether, but they've stopped doing it around you. It is because of what you emit, and they know that they have to bring forth something different, especially if they want to keep you in their life. So we all have this impact on each other. And, it's why choose to be a negative impact on someone's life when it's so much easier to be a positive impact on that person's life?
You know what? I think the human nature, this is another discussion we can do and have to have because, and I question, and people are going to look at me. I tell you, I'm different. That's why I don't really mind people thinking that, oh, you even think I think differently. I'm like, and my sister and I had that discussion. If the Christians claim, say, that we are created in the image and basically of God and the likeness of God, then I wouldn't really want to meet their gods because trust me, but it's just the reality because if I am who you see a lot of my mother's treating me because I live around her, and I suppose I have her DNA. And people say a lot of times, "Oh, your mother used to do," because it's something that you pick up. And one of the good things is that my mother was a very positive person. She doesn't. My mother is just who she was.
Yeah.
And these, as a child, you wanted to emulate her. And you talk about picking up, because I see my daughter do that sometimes. I can tell who Ali has been hanging around for a long time. Her language is different.
Yes.
Her mannerism is different. And I would say to her, no, I prefer Aliyah. I don't want that. I don't want to spend so much time with such and such. I want to spend time with you. So bring back Aliyah. Because you see that. And so when people tell me that they're Christians and I look at their behavior, I'm like, definitely I don't want to go to the same heaven that you want. You're going. It's true because they are so negative. And if these are the people that you look up to and hope that they can change the world because of who they're supposed, what they preach, and not practice, you wonder, and that is one of the reasons why our young people are doing the things that they're doing, going to marijuana. Why do you smoke marijuana? Oh, it makes me mellow. I don't have to deal with the problems of, gossiping and people saying these negative things. A lot of young people are running to these things because they want to get rid of negative energy, not realizing what they're creating for themselves. And we blame them, but we are the ones who make them into
we
who
create
they are.
that. We've created this world, and it's a tough one for them. And we've left them having to maneuver this without the proper tools.
Definitely.
But it's not too late. We have the opportunity to really help them navigate this in a better way, and so that they feel stronger and more empowered and more confident and more independent. If you see a young woman, and I was telling you the other night that I overheard, these young women talking, and one of them was saying, no wonder she doesn't have any money and she's so broke. She's always spending her money this way and that way. And all I could think to myself was, well, you look like a person who might have some financial intellect, and why don't you pull that woman aside then and help her? Or tell her by herself, you could be doing something different, or I can help you get your finances on the straight and narrow. Instead of pointing the finger at the problem and watching her dwindle down to absolutely nothing, you have an opportunity to help her because you see the problem.
You see, but then when I help her, then she's going to get more money than me.
And that's it. That's it right there. It's jealousy. We don't want to see people doing better than us. But there's so much pride that I take in knowing that I assisted someone in reaching their full potential. I absolutely love that, because your full potential and mine are not going to put us both in the same place, no matter what.
Definitely not.
It may take $1 million for you to reach your fullest potential. And so that's why $1 million is a part of your path. $1 million might not be a part of my path because it has nothing to do with my truest potential. So there's no need for me to envy that. You're on your path and I'm on mine. But there's nothing wrong with me helping you get there, even if you get there faster than me.
When I was growing up, I used to say, my mother used to say, Sandra, you cannot change the world. Because we used to have discussions like that. My mother and I, we used to sit down and we started to look at the things. Why people are like this? Why people do these things? I mean, I think we can make a difference, Mom. I think we can. She used to say, Sandra, you cannot change the world. But Jamal, now I realized, I knew I could have, but I really wanted somebody to help me to get there. And I realized now I found the right person. We can make a difference, not just make a difference. Yeah. I think we can create a different mindset. Yes. We can now have young people looking in different directions, not just young people, but people who were set in their ways, start looking in the different directions, now having a better understanding of, what is really happening. My son and I, because I came from a very Christian background, very religious, go to church, but I was searching not for the that the Christians were looking for. I wanted to be a better person. And I felt if you go into the church, because that's where good things happen, because
Yes.
people talk about Jesus and God and the
Yeah.
goodness of. And when I think of the goodness of Jesus and what he's done for me, those are testimonies that you go into church and you hear people talk about. And you're like, I want to be a better person. And if I want to change the world, then let's start from the church. But let me tell you, and I know a lot of churchgoers going to call my number, but the most hypocrites that you can find, they're in the churches. And sometimes you wonder. And one day I said to this girl, because she's a Christian, and she always sent me these wonderful good morning greetings and, and hope that you have. And one day I saw her and we were having that discussion, and I said to her, she started to gossip. I said, I don't do this though. I want that kind of positive. I want you and I to discuss religion then, because if that is what you know, because you go to church, all this, I want to be able to, I want that information, because maybe that's the area that I'm lacking.
Yeah.
And I started to tell her about, about finding the God in you and not looking outside of you. And maybe when you find the God within, then it would make you into a better person. And then you wouldn't have to hide from the pastors and create an impression because your church sisters are around. But you would always be that good person because you know that the God is within you and you always have to please.
Yeah.
And that is one of the things when I tell people, it is very difficult for me to do wrong things. It is so difficult for me to do that because people think it's human nature. But I can't. And I was so proud of my daughter the other day when we found this chair on the road, but we didn't find it because we saw it drop off of Marriott's golf cart. But the driver wasn't aware that the chair fell off. And so I wanted to test her, but she didn't know that. And I'm like, oh, Lord, look, Marriott's here, let's carry it home. So I said, open the back, let's put it in. And I said, it's a good chair, it's a wicker chairs, and you want to carry. I said, I wish 3 more would have dropped off so we'd have 4. And we would have carried them home. And she said, Mommy, no, we're not doing this. We're not doing this. I said, what do you mean we're not doing this? She says, either you leave the chair there or you carry the chair to Marriott's. I said, no, I'm not going to put no chair in my Jeep and then drive to Marriott's. And because I was testing. I'm passing Marriott's now. And she's like, Mommy, no, we're not doing this. We're not doing this. She called Javier. Javier, you know what Mommy wants to do? She wants to steal Marriott's chair. I'm like, I'm not stealing Marriott's chair. It's on the road. I found this chair on the road. She said, but you know who the chair belongs to. And let me tell you, I was never as proud as I was then of anybody in my life.
No.
I looked at it and we drove in, and I started to laugh. We drove in and I said to the guy, I'm looking for the guy who drove this, who was bringing chairs in. And so he gave me the name and he said, what you want to see? I said, I want to see him. And I was packed up. We packed up. The guy came. I said, you lost the chair? He said, no, I didn't. Because he didn't even know the chair fell off of the back. I said, yeah, my daughter made me bring it here. I said, can I have it though? He said, no, you can't have it. So I said, well, you didn't even know you lost it. But it's the story. You have to be an example for your children. And I thought, because people always say to me, how come your children are so different? I don't teach them. They look at the life that I live and they emulate you.
Yes.
And that is one of the reasons why I said we have to be so careful.
Yeah.
The things that we do, because we don't know who is watching. We don't know who's trying to emulate you. And you don't want to create these negative energy in the children because they see you're an adult. And surprise, surprise, we're the ones who they learn from.
Yes.
And so if you are doing things otherwise, so when you see those children are smoking at such a young age, they got it from an adult.
And it's unfortunate because even with hypocrisy, when it comes to that, the two faces to that is kind of sad because on one hand, you've created a dynamic where it's harder to trust you because people focus on the hypocrisy, that you don't live by what you say. But then on the other hand, those same people end up losing because it's not always about the messenger, but more about the message.
Well, I can't trust the message if I don't trust the messenger.
And that's what I'm saying. It makes it so hard to accept the message because we're now focusing so much on the messenger. And I think that's something that all of us need to work on, though, because just because someone is flawed, just because, for example, someone struggles with lying, it doesn't mean that they're not in a position to give you some little bit of knowledge or insight on why it's better for you to be honest. As weird as that might sound to the ear, the way that they might be able to present that might be exactly what helps you become a more honest person. They might just require a little bit more work or something completely different. So we can't always be so hell bent on dismissing information just because we don't like who or where it's coming from. You don't have to be my best friend for me to say what she just said makes a lot of sense. I don't have to know you to be able to acknowledge and admit that what you just, that information that you just gave me is correct. And I think that we get so hung up on, I don't like this person, I don't like what they stand for, I don't like the way they look, and thus nothing that comes out of their mouth is, am I going to let it infiltrate my mind? We lose. We end up losing.
It's true.
There are people listening to the show right now who might say, I don't like Jermal, or I don't like Sandra, and I don't care what they have to say. I'm not going to accept it. Well, that's your loss, because we might be throwing out a little bit of gems here and there that may actually have triggered some kind of positivity in you and added something to the value of your life. And I think that we do ourselves no favors when we don't allow information, like you said at the top of the show, when we don't allow information that we know we need to actually sit and do what it's supposed to do, which is help us.
Jamal, you just changed my life. It's amazing, huh? Why? I'm going to tell you why. And people, it's not a joke. I've always had a problem saying that I don't want the message because I don't trust the messenger. My mother and I fought for that. Yeah, because I tell her, why would I want to go to church when I don't trust the messenger? And she said, Sandra, do not worry, because the messenger has a message, a word, just a word that would change your life.
The messenger is also human.
It's human. And
They
she
are
said
not
that
perfect.
all the time. And I've held on to that. But now you've changed my mind. So I now have to not just look at the messenger, but I have to weigh the importance of the message.
Yeah.
And I think that is you see how simple and how much you can get from just having a discussion, a conversation? Because now you have actually changed something that I've held on to all these years of not, I don't want your message because I don't trust you. Or how can a person who have nothing tell me how to get something?
Exactly.
And then that good way, because they have the plan. That doesn't mean they want something.
Yeah.
I've seen, there's this tennis player that I used to love. Every time he's winnings, he used to give it to the he looked for people who were poor. He donated all of his winnings. He lived the life of a simple person. And after tennis, he had basically the same way, but he wanted to be that way. He didn't want to have all the millions. He just wanted to make money so that he could make other people happy. And so when he comes to you, suppose I would have met him and he wanted to give me a story, and I look at him all tattered and torn and stained, and I wouldn't want to take the message, not recognizing that this guy is a man who understands how to make money, but money has no effect on him because he doesn't want it.
Yes.
I mean, and people have to understand that. People are different to what you see in them because that is how they want to be.
Yes. I have a relative who was on the brink of a divorce. And I remember her telling me about this friend of hers who was divorced, and she was talking to her, and she became so resentful because she said, I don't understand how she can be trying to help me or tell me anything when she lost her husband. And I thought for a second, I said, well, wait, back up. She might be recognizing something that you're doing which caused for the dismantling of her marriage. And as your friend, she's trying to help you preserve what you still have instead of losing it. Who better to tell you what not to do to lose your marriage than someone who knows what it feels like to experience losing theirs?
Wow.
And it's in that moment she kind of had her aha moment where she was like, that makes sense. Because I told her at the time, I said, I can't tell you because mine is going fine. I can't tell you how to not do certain things because we're not the same people. I don't have those same experiences. But she's walked that path and she's recognizing those same red flags that caused the demise of her relationship. So she is in the best position to tell you, stop doing what you're doing.
Thank you for enforcing that, Jermal, and perfectly on the dot of time. We're definitely on the time. You really give me a lot to go home and think about, and you just jab me again, and you just constant because I told you, yeah, okay, well, it's what it is. People, it is Friday. It's a pity. Time has gone so quickly. I didn't even
I know.
realize because we were having so much fun. But like I
know.
said to you, these are discussions that we need to have. It's a pity Gemma doesn't live in St. Kitts because really and truly we need
I can
platform.
come. I can move back.
Yeah, she can definitely. We'll look at having her back. Let's encourage her. We have to create platforms that we can have discussions
Yeah.
of this nature because we are in a society, we are amongst people. I listened to Sister Sensi talk about depression. And I was so touched. It was this morning that I was browsing and I saw her and I was so touched because look at her. She's such a positive person, always in this environment where she's so happy. And when she made that statement, I was like, oh my gosh, we don't know. And we're out of time. I might become depressed more sooner than later. It's a topic that we have to continue.
Yes.
And we need to create platforms for these kind of discussions.
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of people out there who wants that information, can't seem to get it. And we as humans, we have to create again that environment of love, empathy, understand what emotions are, and we have to start to live the life we love, and we have to make sure that we love the life we live.
Yes.
And
And nothing is too taboo to discuss when it's in an environment that you feel safe in. So, now the responsibility falls on us to create that safe space and that
I'm
environment.
so happy that you're my daughter and I'm able to access all of these resources. Okay, we're out of time. That's where we're at right now. Today's Friday. It's the day where people tend to want to release some stress. So it's time for us to party,
Yeah.
they said. But we have to realize that we're in an environment where party is not the norm. We have to
Yeah.
wear a mask, make sure we sanitize, and 6 feet apart. That's the social distancing. I mean, I can hear you from 6 feet away. And we have to start creating this now because we recognize Omicron is a reality. We have... the other variant, I think, is Lamberg or Lambada, whichever is the name of it. It is here. And we also have that common, that's not no longer common. It's that cold, that flu. Yeah, it's common because everybody's getting it now.
Yeah.
And so we can't differentiate which is which. And so therefore we have to exercise protocols, caution, because it's painful. It's not a joke. A friend of mine told me of the feelings, the pain and suffering that you go through when you get it. I really don't want to have that. So let's start adhering again to protocols. We have to bring those numbers down because although Dr. Wilkerson is saying that we don't have much hospitalization, he doesn't even know the pain and suffering that people are feeling. And people don't want to go to the hospitals because they don't want to be a part of the statistics. So those of you who want to party with sense. Start thinking about the other people that you have to protect when you get back home and recognize that you have a job that you have to hold on to and your people that work for you and business have to go forward if you're an employee. So let's start exercise caution and do the things that we have to do. My name is Sanji Kwili and I'm going outside to enjoy the beautiful weather that we always have here in St. Kitts and Nevis and making sure that I create that positive energy. I have Joma for a short time and so I'm going to be a very, very happy camper. And I do hope that you stay tuned to Win FM 98.9. Voices is up next.
Whenever